kind of savings you're seeing from a token perspective, or just like routing helping with that kind of saving?
Yeah, we see up to 70% in routing based on dollars.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the channel. This is your boy Amit, and today I have a special guest with me who's going to help you save your tokens. Bruno from Manifest. Welcome, Bruno. How are you doing?
Thank you, Amit. How are you doing? Very good.
I'm good. So I met Bruno at a OpenClaw event here in Arlington, Texas. He was demoing Manifest, and I was like, okay, we all need this. It's a GitHub project, so we'll share all the links in the description. But Bruno, tell us about you before we get into Manifest.
Yeah, a little bit about me. I've always been the hacker side, entrepreneurial side for the last 15 years. Used to run a consulting company in Paris, France.
Okay.
And then went to agentic stuff and obviously OpenClaw and other agents right now. So this was creating Manifest was something I think obvious for those reasons. And we tackled the price because I think right now we're seeing more and more a broader audience of people that can use AI for different reasons, for small businesses to play around and so on. And cost is really important for them. So this is, I think, a project that's really important for us too.
Yeah. And when I saw your presentation on at OpenClaw ClawCon, it was cool, but it didn't hit home till I burned through so many of my credits. As I recently got laid off, and I started this apply in public job search journey on LinkedIn. And
Mhm.
on day 3 or 4, I used Paperclip, and I spun up 8 agents at the same time. And I was using Codex to connect to the agents, and my Codex limit within 15 minutes the slider was like in real time going zero.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
okay, I need Manifest. I remember Bruno showed something cool, and now I want to dabble into this. I want to save money.
Yeah, and you're right that you have a slider, so it's just your consumption and not real money that you actually burn because yeah, if you just your API key, sometimes you can have very like crazy,
Oh, I
crazy
did that too.
super.
So I set
Yeah.
up an agent through OpenClaw on my Telegram, and I'll show you screenshots, or I'll just take you in my OpenAI org. I'm like, every day I keep getting this $10 bill. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening? And then I went in the API keys, I saw the usage, and I found the culprit, and I killed it. But after 4 days and $40 later, it was just $40 down the drain that I wasn't even getting any value out of.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And especially sometimes you can spend a lot of money without that being very productive, without liking your results and so on. And maybe you let that automation run and you discover later that, yeah, it's spending, it's very easy to spend like $30, $40 per day on some basic stuff. Yeah, if you do like,
What's the craziest amount you have seen as people start using Manifest? What if people told you, like, how much have they burnt before Manifest?
we saw several thousands. Yeah, we saw
Okay.
several thousand of dollars. And one thing I think that saves people is actually the subscriptions. We kind of still a gray zone right now. Anthropic explicitly say that it's against their terms of services to use non-Anthropic products for that, so they build it separately. But all the providers is still like okay with that, especially like OpenAI within like their collaboration, I would say with OpenClaw, they kind of tolerate the fact that you use a subscription, so you get a better deal. And I think this is something that's really important for users. But the downside of that is that rate limits are very low.
Yes. And I was reading on X, OpenClaw with Codex is, or even with GPT 5.4, is just not as good on the loops as something like Anthropic's Claude opuses. But to your point, then you have to go the API route, and that's going to be more. Well, yeah, let's get into it. I love the product. If you can just, we can start seeing what it can do, how can users set it up, and what's like the best tips and tricks you can give.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this is the application. Manifest is basically a layer for cost saving where you can connect your agents. For example, let's connect an agent. So I have OpenClaw, Hermes, or actually like application again. For example, is I'm gonna put test agent. And when you put your agent, what happened here is that this is going to act as a provider, right? So Manifest replaces your provider, like for example, OpenAI or something like that. And then it takes everything you can do from the UI, right? So you can connect all your providers and try to make it more effective, pay less for better inference. We have two types of providers. You can have subscriptions and you can have also API key. And we're talking about those, right? API key is a fast way and a very effective way to make everything work, but it's expensive. And subscription is kind of the opposite. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And what people do on Manifest is create that routing that we have a smart model routing that will select the best model for each query. And this
Okay.
works in two ways. It works on the fly, it's automatic. It detects the complexity or simplicity of the query and also the specificity, right? So if you have something about coding, you're going to use coding model, right? But not for other purposes. You have something for video creation. It will detect from the content you send on the request what's the nature of the query, and you're going to put the best model for it.
Got it. So if, for example, I am in Telegram, right?
Yeah.
That's how I chat with my OpenClaw agent. I set up Manifest, and let's say I set it up with API, and I have my my OpenAI API in there, my Anthropic API key, and my Minimax. So if
Yeah.
I'm just asking, hey, how's the weather going to be tomorrow? It's not going to use a heavy duty model to answer that.
Exactly. Let's try if you want. I have a Google API key right now, and if I add that Google key, I will have all the models by Google in my routing. And
Oh,
as you say,
nice.
you talked about three different providers. If you add more, the more providers you use, the better will be like your blend, your mix, or having, for example, the Opus 4.7, 4.6 in the reasoning side, and then for simpler models, you can use simpler and maybe free models for things that don't really need to have something very powerful. And then you can go on to the specific tier. So this is about specificity. So you can set up a model that's going to be used only for requests, for example, trading or calendar or email, something like that. And the point is always the same, is to make you save money. So what people do a lot is stack some, for example, some free models. We have a list of providers that offer free models. So obviously the rate limits are very low, but you can then stack them here and add fallbacks. So what does it mean? The fallback is when the query doesn't succeed. So for example, it fails because of the rate limit and something like that. It's going to call the second one. So the query is not lost in the ocean.
Gotcha.
And the second one is going to take the lead, and then third, four, five. So we see many users that stack different kind of free APIs, and then eventually, if all of them fail, they can pay. So a good thing for that is you can make like subscriptions that are very cheap or cheaper than API keys, but can have a lot of API limits. So you can make a mix of both. So
Got it. So in your case, if this example on the simple one, you're saying I could have, go back to your free tiers for a second. So I can probably, can I stack multiple free tiers and then say if none of those work, how would I do that?
yeah, you send different ones. You connect with your different providers, and for example, and you add the fallbacks. For example, in this one is Gemini 2.5 Pro. That if this one doesn't work, I'm gonna go with Gemini 3 Pro preview, and if this one doesn't work, I'm gonna go with this one. Obviously, in this example, I just put my Google
Nice.
models, but
Yep.
imagine you can have different providers and mixing like free providers, subscription providers, API key providers. And you even can put your local models if you have the local version installed. This one is the cloud version, which is the one we recommend for most of our users. But
Yep.
for those who likes to run models on the local, like Ollama and VLLM,
Yep.
it's good to have our local version too that can work with local models for simple queries. And then when it becomes very complex, we can then delegate to the cloud.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's where the token economy is headed with the NVIDIA DGI Spark, and I think Tiny just launched the AI Pocket Lab. I think we are all headed to the local model because we're running out of money.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, running local models, it's actually also expensive if you want to run like a big queries, right? You will need powerful hardware that also has a cost. But one thing is sure is that we can see the providers are reducing more and more their offer of what they give for free or giving subscriptions. So right now we still have several subscriptions that are willing to play the game and to let people using their OpenClaw or the agents play with it. But I think we will soon like see some of those providers that gonna reduce their subscription offer because there's too much demand
Yep.
from inference, and there is no way for them to, yeah, they really want to capture the maximum of money in that, and don't want to give it for cheap.
Yeah. I'm so speaking of local models, what about the latest ones that Google has launched? If I have that downloaded on my, like the new Gemma local
Gemini, yeah,
model, right? Like the 8
4.
billion parameter.
Mm-hmm.
If I have that on my Mac, can I connect that to Manifest?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. You can use it through. I think Ollama has it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If Ollama hasn't, it fetches automatically, but this is only on the local version, right?
Yep.
Because the cloud version is not able to get the request back to your computer. So if you're on a local, you're 100% separated from us, and everything runs from your computer, from your machine, directly to the cloud provider you choose, or in local. I would say that's a good thing for people who like to use the local models. And also, I think local models have a limit, especially when something where the request is very complex. In that case, I think, yeah, finding a good mix between local and cloud can also be a good idea for that kind of usage.
Okay. And then I see here, right? Simple, standard, complex reasoning. Is there like a guide that would tell users when to pick which, or is this mainly just me knowing my thing and kind of figuring out, oh, okay, this should always be a simple, like, what's the best practice here?
The best practice and how it works first is this is done on the fly before the query leaves to the provider. So what we have right now is an algorithm that uses 23 parameters to get a nice idea about the complexity of your request. And how this works is with a rule-based system. So we have some words and some structure of sentences, some length of sentences that give us a proper hint that this query is going to be complex. You also have some words that can say, okay, this query is going to be simple, and then it adds up a total score to get the score from 0 to 1, and we then put it on the different tiers. For the general tiers, for the specific tiers, which are, for example, coding, we detect if the query is about coding, if, for example, there is some keywords that are really related to coding, and this overrides the other one. And if you have like from simple to reasoning, I say different models, and you have a coding model, the coding model will be activated if we detect that this is coding. So this
Okay.
is how it works. The code is open source, and it actually runs locally on your machine when you run the local version. So in 2 milliseconds, we are able to detect and find out who's the best for this kind of job. And then everything else can be done through the UI, where you set up your different stack for the different tiers and
Yep.
your fallbacks and so on. And at the end, you can see through the messages, which are empty in this page because we just created the agent. But in this page, you can see how was the routing and why was this model was this model chosen and not another.
Got it. So, okay, that's good. And then you said the scoring model will decide. Sounds like the scoring model is doing all the heavy lifting. How much of a latency are we talking here? Is this like milliseconds?
Yeah, it's milliseconds. It's like 2 milliseconds, something like that. And the reason why is that this is something programmatic. It means that it's not an AI that's doing the job. There is two ways of doing the routing. One will be like rule based, programmatic, so low latency and zero cost. And the other one would be to have a model that's expert at routing to other models. This one is more powerful at the end of the day, but has more latency, and of course it has a cost.
Yep.
Indeed, because it produces an inference before sending it to the other. So right now, Manifest has this programmatic routing. The good thing is like the code is open and can be run directly on your machine. And this is something that's very important also for us. And I think we're trying different ways, different scenarios to see how we can make our routing better and how we can on cover more use cases, I would say, for our users.
Gotcha. So I have OpenClaw on my Mac Mini that's open 24/7. Then I have my MacBook that I'm interviewing you on. To implement this for me, for my OpenClaw agent, would I just download it on my Mac Mini? And then once I download it, how do I do the connection? Because OpenClaw gives me all the providers, right?
Yeah.
How do I choose Manifest in there?
It's if you use you can just use Manifest Cloud, which is I think the easiest one to set up,
Okay,
and then Manifest appears as a custom provider, right? So
perfect.
the only two things that you need is the API based URL and the API key. And in OpenClaw, when you go to the onboard page, there is a list of providers,
Yeah,
and then there is one called custom provider that you can use for all the inference providers out there. And you can put Manifest API based URL here and API key in just below.
perfect. And then you take care of the rest. Oh, every time I now talk to my agent, it's gonna route through Manifest, look at all the
Exactly.
providers. You mentioned it still has the subscriptions. What's your recommendation? Because I want to continue to use Claude I as my main provider across the board with fallbacks. So what's your recommendation? Do I do API key? Do I do subscription?
So Anthropic is a particular case, right? Because they explicitly told that it's not even they ban users, it's they charge users, if I'm correct. So it means like if you use the Claude Max or Pro subscription and they understand that you're not using an Anthropic tool, they will directly count that as extra usage and bill you for that. So this can be surprising, I think. So we still have here the Anthropic subscription and we have many users using it, but I cannot recommend to use this one because it was explicitly said that it was not something they like, right? But the others, and especially thinking about, for example, Minimax, which is very appreciated for the quality at the price that they are sending, and that ZAI is really good too, OpenAI too. Those are really providers that didn't say something special about band people.
Mhm.
So I think users should use right now, users that want to save the most money, they should use subscriptions as much as they can. And I
Gotcha.
think the price users are paying for subscriptions is way, way, way behind the price paid by API keys, which reflects, yeah, quote unquote, the real price.
Yep.
But I don't know if that means something, right? But subscriptions is a very nice way to save money on that. So how you can do is put subscriptions, and then the request fails, you can set up fallbacks and put API keys at that moment. I think it's really important to also spend time on your consumption. And we have, let's show you some other agent that we have. This one, we're not using it anymore, but we have some nice way of visualizing the consumption per day. And also something very useful for our users is to set up limits. Let's say, for example, you don't want to spend more than $30 per day. So you can put the limit here and everything after that will fail. And this is
Okay.
something that's really important for cost management.
I can see there's a huge benefit, not just for cost, but for experimentation, right? I'm like, this is OpenClaw is wild. I want to create a bunch of things, but I also don't want to go broke. So I like I was telling you before we started recording, I was spending $10 a day on API credits on OpenAI, and I had no clue what I was spending it on till I went and saw, oh, it was for my new Hermes agent, which was
Yeah.
just going rogue because I did something wrong. It was my
Yeah.
fault, but this could have prevented that.
It's still a moment where those agents are still, I think, in a very early adopter usage. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, sometimes they spend too much, and it's still hard to control. I think for most of us, everyone's discovering. I mean, myself too. I'm just discovering how to use those things and what I can do with those things, and obviously, it's so easy to spend too much or to make something that doesn't work, and
Yep.
can be very frustrating.
Yep. No, this is great. Let's go back to this dashboard. You were showing some of the usage, so that's like a good visual indicator. And these are all the API key calls, or is the cost based on standard token consumption rate? Where's the cost coming from?
Yeah, so this one has no cost because we are actually using some credits that we have, but we have here the model prices, and we go to the source to get each model price for the different providers, and we compile that in a nice dashboard with different visualization and understanding for our users, so you can see the different prices for Anthropic and the new like Claude Opus
Yep.
like 4.7. And you can see like even in the Anthropic that there is a huge difference between the cost of tokens. And if you take the most expensive like Claude Opus 4.7 and then you compare with something like which was it when let me see like Opus was or the 4.6 is like $25 for a million token received. If you go to Quen or something like that, uh, yeah, it's like crazy, like 30 times cheaper. Obviously, it's not the same results, right? There is each provider has models that are very, very smart and good at reasoning, and others that are more basic. And that's why I think the configuration that most of the OpenClaw Hermes agents user have is one model for everything, which is
Yep.
obviously something not efficient at all because either you're paying too much or you're having very low quality. So trade-off is impossible.
Got it. Got it. So let me give you this scenario and tell me if this is something Manifest does out of the box. Is I send it a query, right? I talk to my Telegram and I'm telling my OpenClaw agent, hey, build me this interactive dashboard, let's say. It goes and I have put all the models to be Minimax, but the fallbacks are higher models.
Uh-huh.
So when it starts building, maybe it runs out of context window because Minimax doesn't have a large context window. Will it automatically then try the next one while the build is happening? Okay.
Yeah, so each time a model fails, it goes to the next one. And there is several reasons why a model can fail. Maybe it's just not available at that moment, right? And maybe just like focusing on it's not available. And if it's not available or if something happens in the meantime and you have no fallback, so that query is lost, yeah, in the wind, right? So
Yeah.
probably like had some, I mean, I had some personal stories about saying, hey, where's my automation you created? Take it to
We've
OpenClaw.
all,
And it
I feel like
answered
it
like,
has happened to all of
what
us.
automation? What automation are you talking about? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
come on. We spent half an hour doing that.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
yeah, I think it's really important to have the fallback, not just for cost, also for reliability. It's also important for those reasons. But yeah, fallback is a feature that it's really appreciated by our users, and most of our key users are using many fallback models.
Okay. And now if we flip that, let's say send a query and I still same scenario, right? All the models are Minimax because I am actually on their $10 plan, which is pretty generous. The model, the query that I'm sending, Minimax cannot handle. But
Mhm.
would Manifest know that and automatically jump, or it's still going to try Minimax first, right? Even if it's like a complex task that Minimax just cannot do it.
It we try because the way it works in the routing is this one is another with Mistral, right? Is that it suggests the best mix for the models, but at the end of the day, the user can change it and choose it. So if you put like a model like very basic for the reasoning tasks, it's gonna be called by
Yep.
manifest. It's not gonna do something with that. It's gonna be called. The user chose that, and you will have an answer. So in that case, The problem is that you will not have a proper error. You will just have a poor response. And
Yep.
this is yeah, and I mean, this is also part of the way we're discovering those models and discovering how we use them is finding what's the best deal I can do. And there's obviously some limits with some basic models when you start asking
Yep.
them too much.
Yeah. I think that maybe like the next iteration for you is even within your reasoning model, if the user has lower and then higher tier, you can figure out what that ask is and just skip the lower tier to save time.
Yeah, yeah. This is something. Yeah, it's time, and we want to make the next features we want to create on Manifest is to really put like some benchmark on and putting side by side
Yep.
different models, make it more obvious to see side by side different result, and let the
Hmm.
user choose having the result in mind and the cost that that will have, because evaluation is something that's also subjective,
Yep.
and quality is different, and people have different expectations about what they expect.
Got it. No, that's great. So that was going to be my next question. But while we are here, I have one more on the specific tiers. What's your Do you have a playbook, or in your docs, is there a playbook on what you typically recommend? Or what have you noticed is the best performing models for those specific tiers? Is one good at email versus one good at coding? Like, what's your take?
I have no take. Sorry, I have no take on that. I think it changes a lot. I saw recently. All I can tell is by our, I think by our users. I saw the Minimax plan, which was very successful, and people love it. And generally there is many like Chinese models that offer a good quality price for those. My personal favorite is obviously, I mean, it's not very original, but I think I'm loving working with Claude Opus, obviously, but it's very expensive and so on. So I think we should only keep that for when we really need, right?
Yeah.
And this is the difference I think with that you can do with Manifest is yeah, those models are very expensive. So what we're doing right now is also thinking about who's the best model, what's the best model
Mhm.
for those kind of tasks, and we want to provide some kind of benchmark, but not about fancy math theorems, but more about day-to-day usage. And the end of the day, people use those agents for simple tasks like
Yep.
automation, and we want to be able to provide yeah some data about that to help users, guiding them and become better at selecting for them. Obviously, at the end of the day, each user has his preference, and some people will feel like put more importance on performance. Some of those will put more performance on costs, quality.
Yep.
Yeah, everything depends. And then something are subjective. For example, like the ChatGPT models are not to be very to have a lot of empathy. Sometimes some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
So then there is personal choices.
You want empathy, you got to pay more. Nice. All right. So 5,000 GitHub stars. You guys are blowing up. What's next? What are some of the things on your backlog? And what's next for Manifest in general? Like the
Yeah.
plan to get to the moon?
The plan to get to the moon is our goal is to become the standard for routing. We think that open source is the way to do it. We think that the how the models become commoditized right now, how the market is fragmented. We think that the routing will have a very key importance in the near future, and this is something that user can do for taking back control over not just cost, but the control about the quantity, about the where to put the data. They want to use that model of different location, local models, for example. We think that routing is going to be very important. We want to be part of it and help users to control their AI, especially at the personal and I will say small level. Can be like small business, can be entrepreneurs, can be people like hacking in their garage. So I think it's really important that everyone is empowered to use those tools because they're very amazing. And the goal for Manifest is is obviously follow the community to see what people ask. And I think on the personal side, our goal is to create a company and based on that open source product that could be profitable so we can live out of it and continue do it do this project because it's something very enjoyable. I think for us, we love working in open source. I think it's very grateful the way it works. And yeah, obviously having the opportunity to continue with that is something that we'll very like.
Nice. And then for your users, you talked a little bit about benchmarking, right? What's the kind of savings you're seeing from a token perspective, or just like routing helping with that kind of saving?
Yeah, we see up to 70% in routing based on dollars. I think dollars at the end of the day is the the KPI, right? It's because tokens have different prices and yeah, they start to have like different prices even at the different times of the day. So
Yeah.
like how much dollar does it save you? And I think with that it's something very we can save up to 70%. And it's hard to get that number with subscriptions because you can say, hey, you pay $20 and $30 per month instead of using an API key, but it's hard to understand how much we saved on that case. But for example, merging like to subscription, free models, I think it can save a lot of money for users.
That's
And it
Yeah, that's powerful, especially like your list of free models. That's like, I will just go and subscribe to every one of them.
yeah, that's right. And we also have a GitHub list of all those models in here.
Okay,
Which is
perfect.
which is pretty popular. So this list is very good. You have all the direct links to get those free models. So yeah, if even with $0, I think people can go up with that list and start hacking and tweaking their OpenClaw or other agents.
Awesome. Well, I'll drop all the links in our video description, how to contact Bruno, their LinkedIn page, the GitHub page, all that fun stuff. Where do you want users to go from here? Download Manifest and start hacking?
Yeah, I think there is two ways. I think for the real ones that want to have everything in local, they can go to our GitHub. And the easiest approach that we recommend for most of our users is to use the cloud version in the manifest.build.
Yep, I'm on it right now. It says connect your first agent. So I'm going to have fun today. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Bruno, for joining us. Thank you all for watching. And until next time, keep prompting.